So I don't want to steal your thunder. So better you guys explain who you are, how you came to be, a few things about your startup. Let's start.
Hi, everyone. I'm Panos. I'm co-founder and CTO at Elyos AI. We're building autonomous AI agents for customer service representatives. We are specializing in field services. What that means is pretty much electricians, plumbers, HVAC installers, and fire and security companies. We've been going for about 2 years now. We're a team of 15 people, based out of London, and we're operating mainly in the UK and in the US.
My turn. Test. Hi, I'm Dimi, co-founder CTO of Intryc. We are automating quality assurance for customer support. My background is computer science, and started my career as an early employee at Revolut, then moved to Amazon Alexa as a machine learning engineer, and then to Instagram, and then founded Intryc with my other 2 friends. We started 1.5 years ago. We raised 2 rounds. We moved to US. We went to the Y Combinator, and now we are growing. We are working with companies in Greece, in US, London, and India.
Hello, everyone. I'm Petros Mandalis. I'm co-founder and CTO of Proxyfood. Proxyfood is an AI recipe formulation company. So we created a software as a service that we provide to CPGs and food service companies in order to allow them to formulate faster and create new formulations that are optimized on specific characteristics. We were founded on late 22 in Washington, D.C. We also have a subsidiary in Athens, and we have raised our pre-seed round and seed rounds, and we are trying now to validate our product with clients and take further feedback from users.
Very interesting to see what you consider so far and the most important milestone so far. Was it validating the idea, getting the funding, the Y Combinator? What was individually the most important milestone so far, of course?
I can go first. Surviving 1.5 years building a startup. To me, one of the hardest problems was the emotional roller coaster that you have to go as a founder. I don't think I have still fixed that problem, but I think I'm getting better at that. And I think as a milestone, as a company and individual, it was to achieve a better handling on the emotional roller coaster.
So for us, multiple milestones, but one important was the team creation and the investor cap table creation, and of course the validation for the first clients. So that was a very big milestone.
Yeah, for us, YC was a big milestone. Great experience. You get access to an incredible network, and highly recommend it to everybody. If they can join, they should definitely go. And I think the Dimitris would agree with that. But I think a big milestone is also when you see your product being adopted by big enterprises and seeing pretty much like handling thousands of calls. Some of our biggest customers, we're doing about 10,000 calls a week at this point. And kind of seeing how embedded it becomes like in their operations, that's an amazing milestone.
Any key takeaways for earlier stage startups? Most of you are based outside of Greece. Should they move out of Greece if you want to succeed? In terms of customers maybe, but you also have your operations and your teams outside of Greece. Any takeaways on that?
I think that every case is different. For us, it was easier to start in the US, set up there the investor table, and then we have the whole engineering team in Athens and some of other places in Greece. So I guess that it applies differently for everyone, but for us, this is how it worked.
I think for us, I think you can start from Greece too, but I think US and SF, things are moving faster. And if you have the opportunity to go there and start a company, that will be great because it shows you what are the limits and how fast people are moving compared to the rest of the world. I don't think it's related to Greece. I think it's the rest of the world. And I think in SF, people dream bigger and they are moving faster. And starting a company there, it gives you the opportunity to understand what is the game that you need to play in order to build a successful startup. I don't say we are successful. I'm saying what I have seen.
You will be.
But from what I see now in Greece, I think the ecosystem is growing. VC funds are here. There is a lot of help to build something big. So you can easily start from here and expand to US too. That's how I see it from my side.
Yeah, I mean, we have an amazing talent pool in Greece, right? And that's why you see so many Greek founders building great companies abroad. I think the key challenge, and this is what we're trying to go after, is like be close to your customers. So each team should be as close to the customers as possible. For us, we've been mainly operating in Northern Europe, like so in the UK and France and on the East Coast. So it's been working really well for us to be based in London. It's not that you're going to do it by being in Greece, but the reality is like, especially if you're looking for your first customers, being able to close customers from Greece, like in the UK or like in the US, it's a much harder challenge, right?
So the business and operations and the fundraising.
Sorry for this. Thank you so much. Hi, guys.
Thank you so much, Niko.
Thank you, Adoni. And I have to say, the most important application of AI should be to fix the parking issue, especially in Athens. Took me about an hour, so apologies to you guys. And I know you were in the process of introducing yourselves and your ideas and your thoughts about the application of AI. So I won't interrupt you. We'll let this be completed and we'll get to the questions. Right after Pano, you just...
No, we're just talking about like how easy/hard is it to build a startup out of Greece, and because
Nice.
we're all kind of operating like multiple countries and our teams are based like in different countries and stuff.
I did meet, I have to say, one of your co-founders just now in Finland at Slash. So this was a central topic of the discussion.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, I'm curious to hear your thoughts as well about how it is to build from Athens and what sort of presence you have.
So from my side, building from Athens, we have engineering here too. We have also in SF. I think for us also, the thing that I didn't mention before is the time zone, because we have clients in India and Europe and US. It helps us a lot, the engineers, to be in the middle of all the time zones to help the clients, because we're trying to have the customer support, to have an excellent customer support to answer in less than 3 minutes in all our customers. And I think there is also good talent. You can find the top 1% and they give them the opportunity to work with a YC startup. And I think you can be in Greece, but also be in the US or anywhere in the world and start building.
And when it comes to going to the US, what's the biggest attraction? Access to capital?
For me, it's the people. And as I mentioned before, is you see people dreaming big and moving really fast, and you can see your limits. So exposing to yourself to SF and US is it changes how you think.
Gotcha.
Yeah, same here, same for me. People and the environment is certainly gives you inspiration, gives you the pace that you should work, and gives you understanding of the environment that will certainly help on the future steps.
Awesome. Let's switch gears a little bit now. I mean, we're here to discuss about AI and particularly engineering the AI of the future, right? And I think this has been a year where you're seeing a lot of the applications of AI really stand out and sort of customizing tools even more. So I'm wondering if you could all give us from your vantage point and your industries where we are, what's the state of the art in AI, and also give me a little bit of your thoughts about what's hype and what's real. Yeah, starting from you, Pano.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's an exciting time, right? It's the first time that we actually see proof that AI works. It's not just like ChatGPT where you go and ask questions and you get excited by the answers. You actually see real workflows working in production. So it's amazing that it does actually work. And I think we're very early because we still haven't figured out how, especially bigger corporations, are going to adopt AI. They all doing projects, of course, and trying to figure out how that's going to work. But right now, adoption and having teams adjust and learn more about AI, it's one of the biggest barriers that we see. There's a lot of hype, especially around vibe coding. And there's a lot of conversation like how far you should go with a lovable kind of MVP and if you can sell yes or no. But I think it's kind of missing the point. The point is not if you can sell, it's more like if you can build it. Because a lot of what we see is that there's a lot of companies trying to build in this way. They go out, they validate with users, which for that use case, lovable is great. But then the minute you need to kind of do something more advanced, you're going to do it, right? So I think this is where I put this is on the high bucket. But yeah, guys, what do you think?
Dimitri, what do you think? And what's the biggest challenge shaping your particular application of?
For us, I agree with Panos. AI is working most of the times. One of the challenges we are facing is all the big processes that the companies have. They have built it over years, and it's really hard for them to change it and adopt AI because they need to change completely how they operate, and especially the big banks or the big corporations. And it takes more time than expected. So from our side, what we're trying to do is trying to help them on how to add AI to their workflow and try to make their processes a bit less complex that they have created over years. So I think that's the biggest barrier for us right now.
I like this response because you're saying the biggest challenge with AI is actually a human challenge, right?
Right now it's a human challenge that we're facing. It's not AI. The AI is working, it's just a human. Changing the mindset and changing the process they have built over years.
Do you agree?
Yeah, I partially agree. So a very big problem at the moment is reliability and reliability at scale. AI applications do work. We see models becoming better every month. We see the new benchmarks all being beaten, and we see very exciting growth, so it's great times to be in. But at the same time, in order to do that and be reliable in a production scale, providing a product that the users will use 8 hours per day, and you will have 100 users asking that, and having consistent answers that they make sense and they are repeatable and they have a specific security layer on them, this is difficult. And in order to achieve that, the latest trend is agentic AI, and that's what we have incorporated. And in agentic AI, you have multi-step reasoning, you have retrieval of documents and different knowledges, you have optimization loops in the agentic framework. And each of these steps can have uncertainty, and this uncertainty will be compound from the early stage to the late stage that will be the outcome. So the key thing is evaluation, and evaluation is something difficult to do in agentic frameworks. And quickly, how we approach that is we have 3 layers. We have a structured feedback, so you have the experts to provide specific questions that is a big data set that allows you to evaluate not only just on one dimension, but in many dimensions, taking into account cost, security, accuracy, and repeatability. Second is to put guardrails, so you have to put guardrails on the answers that you get from the agentic framework, which are deterministic and will allow you to audit the performance. And finally, to have continuous monitoring, so to monitor the results of the output, like a machine learning production project. So to see the drifts, the regressions, to see the failure rates over time and understand how it changes behavior.
You mentioned the word reliability, and I want to get deeper onto it. I think what's great about this synthesis of this panel is you 3 operate in quite different fields and applications, so it'd be really nice to see, to sort of dive a little bit more deeply into the specific things that you guys do. And on reliability, I want to ask Dimitris, so what you guys do is you replace basically manual QA with AI-driven valuation, right, at scale. So what's the toughest reliability challenge on that, and specifically from getting to a prototype to a fully trusted automated system that works and is fully reliable?
Yes, for us, we are monitoring any AI of our clients, of course. Any AI conversation or a human conversation that is happening live. And we are trying to prevent mistakes, errors, and how the humans or the AI should improve, kind of like the evaluations that we were saying before. And one of the biggest issues right now is the volume and all the actions that the AI is taking, and we don't have right now the capacity of the humans to check, for example, did you do well or you didn't do well. And imagine if you have a big corporation that you're doing 1 million evaluations for QA every month. It's really hard to say, okay, did it work correctly or not? It's really hard to validate right now. And it goes also back to the process and the people that we were discussing, but that's my biggest challenge right now.
And Panos, for you, I mean, what you guys are building is a sort of an autonomous voice agent system for field services. I saw it tested in Slush, it was really good. What are some of the challenges you faced, and what are some of the engineering pivots that you had to make when you realized, from the words of your co-founder too, the biggest bottleneck wasn't really a hardware-based thing, it's a fragmented workflow, it's variability depending on the service that you offer, etc. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So with voice, you have an additional layer, which is pretty much everything needs to be real time, right? So by default, you need to figure out a way to be able to, like, so human conversation is more like 400 milliseconds, like in turn taking. The current cascade architecture that you're going to see in most of the voice agent systems is like closer to 1 second, if not more. So you need to be really smart on how you're going to go about optimizing all of these like particular layers. For us, some of the interesting findings were, depending on the customer, you might have calls that break. What I mean by that is if you're having a fire and security company, somebody's going to call you to reset their alarm, but you have like a very loud siren on the background, so you need to figure out like what exactly is the customer saying and how do you have your ASR, like the automatic speech recognition, to trigger properly, right? Then you need to take into consideration the emotional state of the caller. Sometimes there might be an emergency. Imagine a situation where your boiler breaks on a Saturday night and you're not going to have like hot water for the next 2 days, right? You have a family, all those kind of things. So the agents need to be really good at understanding what's happening on the caller side, right? So to be able like to address all that. Some of the things we found were around, and again, linked to reliability, but also how do you get consistent experience with customers every time? So what you want is pretty much if you're going to call like the AI like 10 times to get the same or a similar experience as possible, all these 10 different times. And in order to do that, models by default are stochastic. You need to figure out how you're going to make them more deterministic. So for that, the way we build the agents, you can think of them as a complicated version of state machines for its workflow and its path. So you do have, of course, like workflows that are either, and back to Dimitri's point, like either not defined really well or a kind of intuitive being worked on by the customer support team. So kind of mapping all this, figuring out where things break, because the reality is like with human calls, the conversation can deviate at any given point, right? So kind of building in order to be able to recover from all that and having constant feedback to the models, like into your agents, is really crucial. And that's how we approach the problem. We saw good results, and it makes also like testing and your evals kind of more consistent because you have like more well-defined like workflows.
And a quick follow-up here, because if you want, you can quickly share this, but I know you and your team really pivoted from a different idea into what you're doing now. And what was it that attracted you to voice? What's the potential you saw?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So very quickly, straight out of YC, we were building AI agents for energy optimization and demand response. So we're in the energy space. Myself and my co-founder have backgrounds like in energy. And one of the biggest blockers to scale our customer base at the point was like really the tradies, so the people that we ended up like working with were moving really, really slow because they really depend on the phone. Like just for context, these are the people that are going to install like HVAC systems, batteries, and all the systems you would need to do any energy optimization, and down the line like any BMS as optimization/integration. So we started working with them in order to try to understand how we can help them to unblock ourselves. So voice became possible really last summer, like so 2024, and it became even better like towards the end of summer. So we're like, okay, well, since they really depend on voice, let's figure out how we can help them out, right? And the other thing, of course, is like before starting Elyos, I was at Bulb Energy, one of the biggest energy suppliers in the UK, and we were actually building all the tooling for the call center in-house. So I had a lot of experience from there.
Nice, lots of knowledge you could bring over. Let's go to Petros on Proxyfoods, because I think you do something that's quite interesting, right? You work in a space that we think is very human, like has to do with a lot of human acquired taste things, like what's the taste of food, texture of food, nutrition, etc. So you really blend food science technology with AI modeling. What is the hardest technical problem in that specific application? And how did you start approaching your own product, your own, sort of applying AI into something like the food industry?
So, one of the main problems is how you will combine all the different data in order to get an outcome that actually can be created on a lab and provide outcomes that can be reproducible and repeatable. So we engineer that in 3 main layers. So we have a 3-layer process that allows us to first have the food science knowledge incorporation, where we retrieve information from different food sources, food science, scientific sources, regulations, and nutritional composition and chemical compounds. Then we follow that with a predictive analytics that allows us to predict the different aspects of the generated outputs. And then we have a multi-step optimization that allows us to create different objectives with taking into account a lot of dimension of constraints and creating an output that it's subject to specific constraints in the formulation space. So that's like the main process that we are following, and of course it has many different smaller steps that need to be done, but it provides a pipeline that allows the users to take an output, which then they can create and they can provide feedback. And one of the key challenges is this feedback to make it on an active loop that will allow you to have results that will converge faster to the optimal, let's say, solution.
It's a good point to segue into something that really interests me with AI, which is that you can really get an MVP out there really fast, like faster than before, right? But then the challenge and the key here is how do you scale this from something like an early prototype to a really robust product. Surely there's a lot of iterative services, but I'm really keen to understand a little bit more how you three are all approaching this from, minimum viable product or prototype to a fully robust product. So let's hear from all of you how you're addressing this challenge. Starting from Dimitri.
Yes, so when we started the company, we didn't have all this cursor and all these AI tools. They started a few months later, so the MVP, we built it without the help of AI. Maybe ChatGPT was quite good back then, but it was from scratch. But right now, we launched a new feature that we built it in less than 2 weeks, that is selling more than our core product. And what we did was to put in, we built all our back end and front end in, we put the basis first, and then all the logic on top of that, AI built it. And we could easily create readable and very good maintainable code in less than 2 weeks, 3 engineers, and we could easily sell it. And To be honest, right now, I'm not going to say about vibe coding because this is from day zero, so it's not applicable for me, and I don't have that much experience with the vibe coding. But using AI to build something on top of your current code base, if it's well structured, is really beneficial because instead of spending 2-3 months to build a product, it takes you 2 weeks. You validate with your customer, and if they buy it, you can expand it, and you can just monitor it at scale. As long as you have especially on the backend, the correct structure, so it's easily maintainable and readable for the other engineers. That's how I see from my side. Panos?
Yeah. It's interesting because I agree, like our first version as well, we didn't have like any AI tools. What we've seen is Carousel, Cloud Code, all these coding tools are doing an amazing job if they're used by knowledgeable engineers and people that really know what they're trying to do. So this gives you like the 10x experience and you can move like amazingly fast. If it's used by people that don't necessarily have the background, it can cause you like a lot of issues and pain points down the line. However, because the most important thing is like to talk to your customers and share progress as you're building. These tools have helped a lot on sharing prototypes and early versions rather than taking away and spending like a month building something that potentially you might not want to, right? In our case, it helped particularly our operations team because they were able to build a lot of internal tooling to improve like the onboarding process. And that didn't require, in the first iteration, of course, like engineering support. And that's huge when you have like a small team, right? And you try to move like quite fast, right? And that helped us unblock really like the whole process and be able to scale.
What about you guys at Proxyfood?
So for us, I strongly believe that all software engineers should now write code using AI. So there's no question on that. And it's not only the software engineers. At the moment, we are on the brink of a huge revolution of technology. So it's like when internet was first invented. We are in such a case. And we have to understand that some things will change. And one thing that will change is how we usually work, so how we have learned how to work. This is something that will change drastically. The software engineers should, and on our team, of course, have totally embraced it. The software engineers should run AI tools. They should do it in the best way that they find possible, but they have to give it a chance. And it's not only the software engineers, so the quick prototyping. The prototyping is happening in days now instead of months. It's also all the operations of the company. So everyone should learn how to use these AI tools in the best way possible, in the safest way possible. And it can certainly help us in order to quickly do proof of concepts, validate them with clients, keep the good ones, throw the bad ones and move on. But it allows you to do this loop much faster than we used to do it. And we are in a step of for generation, I think.
Okay, let's change subjects now. It's been a wide topic this year that Europe is sort of falling behind on the AI race. Opened up a big conversation about the regulation v innovation debate, right? Do we regulate too much? At the same time, all of the products, all of the applications, what you guys are doing, they actually impact people. So we do understand that there's element of transparency, safety, trust that needs to be built into AI. So I have a lot of questions that I could ask Ms. Ursula von der Leyen on the regulatory perspective of how we achieve this. But I'm sure there's an engineering perspective here too. How do you engineer trust, transparency, safety into AI tools? So I'm curious in what you guys are building, how do you incorporate those elements on the engineering side? Panos, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I think in order to build transparency and potentially trust, you need to start by actually sharing like what the agent does. So for example, if the agent is being asked, they should always say, hey, I'm an AI assistant, for example, right? You start with the very basic things. I think people don't necessarily trust AI yet because they haven't seen how good AI can be in handling tasks that would otherwise take like hours. B, there is always like, what's happening with my data, what like is a leak might happen, like how that is like playing around. So the first thing you can do is making sure, and I guess like it applies to all traditional SaaS models as well, making sure that you take good care of your customer data, make sure that you have like, of course, like retention policies, make sure that you comply, especially for enterprise customers, with their DPAs and everything that they bring like forward to you. And then the actual agents, the way you build them and the type of access you give them, right, it's really important. For example, one of the challenges with MCP service is that you might end up with agents that have like too much information without any controls and without any kind of way to know where they're going to go next, right? So one thing we intentionally did when we started building our framework was like we approached everything as a state machine to ensure that you're not going to have like any unpredicted data. Well, I don't want to say leaks, but more like kind of data sharing with the agent, right? So a couple of things you can do is make sure you always like do one-way hashing if you're sharing in passwords. We have some customers, for example, that they're calling for alarm resets, right? So you definitely don't want to, for someone like a burglar, like to call you and say, hey, can you reset this for me, right, and go forward, right? So the less you share with the agents, the better. And then always thinking like, what's going to happen if the agent accidentally leaks this kind of information is really crucial, right? Because of course you're gonna set up like guardrails, you're gonna do the best you can like to monitor like all the process, but that's why, following like the if you want like a version of the least privilege over there, like makes a lot of sense. Now, something that we're doing and we found really useful is like that we are currently for every conversation running a parallel loop that's monitoring what's going on over there. And then you can use like a set of different models that are checking for different things. So either if the conversation like derails, or if you have customers repeatedly trying to interrogate the LLM, right, and trying to kind of jailbreak it, this additional LLM is going to kick in and either interrupt the call, right, or you can always like escalate like to human if the conversation is getting to an uncomfortable place, right? But there's definitely ways to work around that.
Dimitri, how do you guys engineer for safety? And if I can add another component to the question, is it best to do it from the start? Or is that hindering maybe some of the sort of flexibility of your models? Is it something you integrate later?
I will agree on everything that Panos said. We're doing all of these things. We are adding one more step. When we are not 100% sure of an action of the AI agent, we pass it to a human. Yeah. Just to be 100% sure, because we are working with banks, healthcare sectors, etc., and we need to be 100% sure. If something doesn't make sense, to have a human oversight there. The other part we are doing, which probably similar to what you said, is in every AI action, we have other AIs that they exchange information and they are making a short evaluation if the response is right. And of course, then we're protecting the data. We have different instances for every agent, AI, or even customer data. And I think that's it from our side. I think Panos covered most of the things.
Yeah, actually most of the things are covered, but yeah, it's part of the guardrails. So the guardrails is, you can either do them with agents, you can do them with deterministic constraints, you can do it with the different ways that you should think about your specific business. Because there is no business as usual in this specific case. You have to align the evaluations with the system and the system flows that your product is following. So that is a main driver for us. And the fact that we are not sure, again, what are the tests that we should do in order to evaluate our agent, it's something that teams should embrace and understand and push over for more evaluations, for taking scenarios that are edge cases, but they may happen, and they may happen to your client, so it's better first you to find them than your customer.
Right, we're approaching the time where we have to wrap up, but I want to close us with a sort of rapid fire round. If you could tell us in one word or one phrase, each of you, what's one thing that makes you the most optimistic about the future of AI engineering, and what's one thing that worries you? This could be on an engineering front or some of the more regulatory, safety, transparency stuff we're talking about now. Panos, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I'm very excited by the different applications that we see in AI. And I think over the next couple of years, we're going to see more things around, of course, like voice is already here. In general, natural human interaction with models. So it can be through AR, VR, or, you know, like the meta glasses and all these different like ways to interact with models. So I'm really excited about that. And we definitely see that the models are improving. The models can be not just smarter, but kind of have a very consistent way to reason and check like what's coming out of them. The thing that worries me the most is what are we going to do with the new generation of engineers and in general like workers that come into the workforce, because a lot of things are changing, and particularly for junior engineers, let's say, right? So how do we set them up for success in a world where they still need to somehow learn? Because for an experienced engineer, it's completely different having to use like an agent, right? I mean, they already know more or less like what they're trying to do. That's absolutely fine. But for a junior engineer, how do we get them like the same opportunities, like to learn and to grow when you're gonna have like an agent kind of being like straight out of a box, like 20 times better, for example, right? So that's, yeah, that's for me.
The shrinking of entry level is a concern of mine.
That's
journalism as well, right? And not just entry level, maybe. We'll see. Dimitri, what about you? One thing that hypes you about AI engineering, one thing that scares you about the future?
That anyone can build a prototype now and start selling and build their own startup or a company. I think that's really interesting nowadays, that in 2 days you can have a product and go for a prototype and might be selling it. Then you need to hack though the distribution, because then it's becoming harder. And the thing that worries me is I have seen a lot of companies downsizing their teams. And I'm a bit worried about how this will change over the next 5-10 years. Some companies take it as like, okay, we're increasing the volume and we are more productive, that's great. But some other companies, they're downsizing their teams, sometimes even 50%, 60%. And I'm curious how this evolves over time for the humanity, let's say.
Right. And Petros, close it off.
I'm very excited about the potential in productivity that I see coming from this technology. So I can't imagine what will be built in 10 or 20 years with the current tools that we are building. So this is very exciting times. What scares me is, I would say that as we were discussing before about safety, so the companies that build that to be, you know, on the safest side possible, because there are many different applications that things can go bad. And we should be very careful about it in an environment that there is geopolitical tensions, geopolitical competitions, a few number of companies doing very big leaps. So this is an environment that should be seen with caution.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. We set up a good start, I think, good foundations for the rest of the day. Give a round of applause to our three excellent speakers.